All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. Let me know immediately if my audio is not doing too good. I think it should be okay, but if it's not, let me know. We are live. We are live. It's one of those days. We've had a few days, to say the least, that have been nothing but red. And, well, you got a little bit of a change. You got a little bit of a change on a day like this. Nebius is up 10%. Google is pushing 319, up 7%, $3.85 trillion market cap. Tesla's at 418. Amazon's up 2.3. Bitmine is up 20% on the day. I mean, Ethereum is not up 20%. So obviously you got people that are buying into BMNR a bit more aggressively than Ethereum. SoFi's up 8%, Palantir's up 7%, Robinhood's up 8%, Micron's up 8%, Meta is up 3.5%, S&P 500 very close to breaking 670. We got 13 minutes left until the market closes. Maybe we will close above 670. We're at 669. ASTS is up 6, Rocket Lab's up 5, Cypher's up 15, Oscar is up 22, Lemonade's up 7, D-Wave's up 13, Grab is up 7, Apple's up 2. Why is this happening? Why are we going so green after what has felt like quite literally a month, even though it's been about 3 weeks of nothing but red? Well, first of all, before I give the reason, put a poll right there in the chat. Do you trust it? Do you trust it? That is the question that I'm curious to see everyone's perspective on. Do you trust it? I think throughout the entirety of the day, everyone has been kind of struggling to figure out if they're going to trust it or not. But there might be a good enough reason to trust it. This came out about an hour ago, and this is what I think really solidified a lot of the green that we are seeing today. I mean, we were already green, but this headline is what really, I think, got us to end up potentially closing green. One of the Fed presidents from the San Francisco Federal Reserve is backing a rate cut. There you go. Last Friday, John Williams, the Fed president of the New York Fed, said that he would likely have a rate cut. He is seen as a proxy to Powell. Not all Fed presidents are created equal. The NYC one, the San Francisco one, they tend to matter a lot more. Obviously, Jay Powell, the Fed chair, matters the most. That sent odds from 30% to 75% on Friday. Today, literally an hour ago at 2:55 p.m. Eastern, you had Mary Daly from the San Francisco Fed say that she supports a rate cut. She's citing the weak labor market. And now the probabilities on a rate cut are at 81%, 80.9, which is significantly higher than where we've been at for a long time. I mean, it's the highest we've seen over the past couple of weeks. And so I think that's the reason. I think Mary saved the day. Mary and John Williams together seem to have saved the day. You got a lot of other headlines that are pretty bullish that we'll talk about. You had Trump say some good things about China. You have Amazon. Remember, they were investing $50 billion in the morning for data centers in Virginia for the United States government. They're investing another $15 billion in Indiana, which we'll talk about. It's just incredible the size of investment that they are putting up there. Google right there, 318.84. But realistically, I think the Fed rate cut probabilities going higher is what the market really cared about. NVIDIA right there up 1.42% on the day. And the fact that they got confirmation from a second leading Fed president, that was a big deal. Oh, it's 85%? Wow, I just refreshed. You guys are right, 85. Okay, I guess I forgot to refresh. I had it at 80.9. There you go. I mean, it is almost inevitable at this point when the Fed probabilities get this high. And the reason I'm saying that is because Jay Powell tends to not be a Fed president, just historically how he's governed, to give the market a surprise. So if it's really leaning towards one way or the other, he's probably going to give you what the market is suggesting. Now, maybe something happens over the coming days. Maybe we get some crazy inflation data and that probability goes to the downside. But you only have about 3 weeks left until this Fed meeting on December 10th. And that right there is what I think we are seeing from a rate cut probability that's getting the market to go great. And I would imagine all of us are enjoying it. Tesla right there at 420, Bitmine up 20% on the day, SoFi up 9%, Palantir 162. You do have some red candles that just came in as we're getting into the close. Bitcoin, by the way, 89,000. Palantir right there, you see that red candle from 165 to 162, Nebius 92 to 91. But you have a lot of other stocks that are just holding on to the green momentum. I mean, Google 318.34 is quite incredible. And so I think it's a little bit more of a stock pickers market, like Palantir and Nebius just getting a red candle right there, not really affecting Amazon or Google or affecting Bitmine. Bitmine just continuing to go higher. But the fact that they're all holding their green candles, AMD right there, 215 up 6% of the day, is also Very, very exciting. You got Netflix right here that is up, I believe, as well. Netflix, wow, 107. That's up 2.65%. It actually looks like a red candle across the board on a variety of things. I don't know if that was kind of algo selling into the final 10 minutes. I don't see any crazy headline, but doesn't seem like enough to potentially get rid of the red or the green that we have seen today. But the fact that you're seeing a red candle, just like as we get into the last 10 minutes of the trading day, it is why all of us, I think, have been just watching our backs for the entire day. I don't feel like any of us have really trusted this green. And, one day is not enough. If we can close at some of these levels and hopefully continue to close above these levels going into the end of the week, that would be very important. Apple right there, 276. Oracle right there also going green after going down from 205. But the fact that we're even here, I think, is exciting. The fact that we're even here is exciting. Now, a name like Nebius obviously is going to be super, super volatile. So the fact that it's up 10% a day, I mean, it was down 10% on multiple days last week. Same thing with a name like NVIDIA that's getting a little bit of love today. Same thing with AMD. It was down almost 15% on one of those days last week, now recovering up 6%. Just, again, getting the green back into sight and seeing the probabilities for why we are green, I think was the most important thing today. And it looks like that's what we got. Could there be another flush out before the end of your rally? If there is going to be end of your rally, yeah. I think it could happen when we least expect it, which is why I definitely think a lot of people are a bit more concerned about if we can trust this green. As you can see right there on the heat map, we are very green. The things that are red are the things you'd expect to be red on a green day like this. Consumer defensives, everything else kind of holding on to its momentum. Ondas up 28% on the day. But nonetheless, as Tess says right here, I think we deserved one. We deserved a green day. I mean, after all the shit we went through last week, this was one of those days that we needed, and hopefully it can continue. I mean, I think when you get punched multiple times in a week for multiple weeks in a row, you start to remember how special it is to see equities actually go up and have your capital compound, and it's not easy. This is why this game is so hard. But after a grueling couple weeks, it is nice to see a little bit of reprieve. And again, it's not just because, algo stocks are just going up for the hell of it. Obviously, that's a part of it. It really is this rate cut. Just like last week, you had algos and margin calls, et cetera, compound on the one piece of bad news, which was that rate cut probabilities went to 30%. You're seeing the exact opposite happen this time. You're seeing algos and systemic buying versus selling compound on the one piece of good news that goes against the narrative we had last week, which is that we might get the rate cut. So last week, the story was not getting the rate cut. This week, the story is getting the rate cut. And I think that's why you're seeing a sort of major U-turn right there. Robinhood at 115.41. And that's getting the market excited. Bitcoin right there, 89,137. The other piece of good news this morning was Trump and China. So he tweeted this right after the market open was done. But Trump said we had a great call with China. The China relationship is strong. We're making significant progress. And he says he'll be visiting Beijing in April. And President Xi will be visiting in America. Now, we saw some of President Xi's comments this morning as well to Chinese state media, basically said the same thing. So both leaders are in agreement in terms of how they're talking about the relationship between the United States and China. China has already started exporting some of the rare earths and buying some of the soybeans from the United States. But those probabilities of rate cuts going higher have really made a difference. And obviously Trump being buddy-buddy with China, that also helps. So the big question is, do you trust it? Do you trust the green? 62% of you in the chat say you trust the green. 37% say no, not yet. I think that's a reasonable split, 60-40. S&P right here trying to go for 670 towards the end of the day in these last 5 minutes. There you go, 670. Wow. You just had a massive red candle on a Nebius, and that's coming right back. And on Palantir, that's coming right back. And then you had a little bit of a red candle on the S&P, not as big as on Nebius, but that one's reversing. Wow, NVIDIA getting, look at that. Look at that right into the close. NVIDIA 183.28 up 2.44%. Wow, lots of back and forth. I mean, just saw some deep red candles. All those are getting reversed right here, and definitely on the index level, it might be potentially getting reverse. 669 right here on the S&P 500. Again, it's a green day. Market looks like it wants to end out green. We're going to find out over the coming days if this is a real trend. Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think, are kind of your leading indicators right here of risk on, which ironically, the stock market has been following Bitcoin. I mean, obviously Bitcoin's delta towards the S&P has taken a much bigger dump because it's more volatile, but nonetheless, Bitcoin has gone down. The market's gone down. Bitcoin has gone up. The market has transitioned. 115.50 on Hoodie as crypto continues to do better. Lemonade, that's up 8%. Cypher up 17%. And then Rocket Lab, that's up 5.3% on the day. Another update for why the market might be loving all the news that we're seeing is on Amazon. So we talked about this in the morning. Amazon is investing up to $50 billion to expand AI infrastructure and data centers. Now you can never shave. Oh my gosh, dude. Well, if it needs to keep the bull market going, then that's what we got to do. Amazon's investing $50 billion for computing infrastructure for U.S. government agencies. This came out an hour ago. Amazon is now investing another $15 billion in northern Indiana to build new data center campuses and advance AI innovation. This is going to create 1,100 jobs as per their website and support new workforce development training programs and local community projects. It's also going to add 2.4 gigawatts of electricity to the entire state. So you have two really major announcements in the world of AI and data centers. We also had some updates from Claude and Alibaba that we'll talk about as well. But $50 billion in the United States government infrastructure investments, and now $15 billion for an overall data center they're building in Indiana. It's just quite incredible. And you got other people saying that all this data center stuff is a bubble. And then you have Amazon saying we are going to put more of our money into it, which again, I think just combats a little bit of the narrative. Rocket Lab right there at 42 as that one continues to go green as well. Michael Burry just tweeted, NVIDIA emailed a memo to Wall Street sell-side analysts to push back on my arguments. I stand by my analysis. Obviously, the full analysis does not fit in a tweet. I will release on my timeline. And then he plugs the Substack. Okay. He is right. NVIDIA did email a bunch of Wall Street analysts and said that Burry's arguments are kind of dumb. So he is right about that. Here's the exact picture right here. NVIDIA published an official rebuttal against the claims about the company, and they literally cited Michael Burry's tweets on X. Looks like Burry just got into a tweet war with the most valuable company in the world. And quite frankly, it's got to be good for business. Burry is charging $380 a year. His Substack has like 40,000 subscribers. I mean, even if 50% of those people paid the subscription, which you would imagine even more would pay for that. I mean, the dude's making millions as a Substack writer. And so if you're in a beef with the most important company on the planet, by the way, Business Insider published some of his content. And he in one of the tweets or in one of the articles, he has a segment where he quite literally calls NVIDIA Cisco. He says NVIDIA is once again this market Cisco. And so he's going back and forth. He is going back and forth. This was the exact quote. And once again, there's a Cisco at the center of it all with the picks and shovels for all and the expansive vision to go with it. He writes, after noting that Cisco plunged 78% during the dot-com crash, its name is NVIDIA. So it looks like NVIDIA took it seriously, published their response to the official sell-side analysts, and Michael Burry is going to go back and forth with them. I mean, if anything, it's going to create a really good intellectual project of going back and forth to discuss all the nuances of the nature of AI in this bull market. But you do have Michael Burry, who's going to be publishing his posts and his ideas out there into the world. NVIDIA right there, 182.92. Google looks like she's going to close above 318, which is just incredible. S&P 500 probably not getting the 670 close, but it looks like we will be getting 669. Pretty incredible day. We needed a day like this, and thankfully, it looks like that rate cut is more likely than not. 4 p.m. Monday, November 24th, the stock market is now closed. We are done for the day. Last week of November, one of 4 trading days this week. S&P 500 closes up 1.5% green on the day, 668.81 for the S&P 500. NVIDIA, 182.55. That was up about 2% on the day. Amazon right there, 226. That was also up 2.53%. Palantir did get a red candle right at the close. Still up 5% on the day. You probably had some sellers at that 165 level, 165 to 162. I'll take a 4% day on Palantir. That is still a pretty strong day in regards to the overall price action. Rocket Lab right there, up 5% on the day. Meta If you bought Meta at 580 last week, you're definitely feeling happy. That's up 3% of the day. ASTS was up 7%. We do have Zoom earnings in a second, so we'll take a look at those. Zoom earnings will be after the bell. IREN, 14% on the day. Nebius, 10% on the day. NVIDIA, again, up 3%. Google, wow, gets the 318 close. Very exciting to see. 6%, 3.84 trillion. They are now worth more than Microsoft for the first time in 7 years. Google is inching up there in terms of that $4 trillion market cap. AppLovin, that was up 7.6% on the day. IONQ was up 12%. Rigetti was up 12%. I mean, again, if you were short quantum going into 2 weeks ago, you did very well. If you were short quantum going in today, it didn't work. A lot of this just has to do with the timing. Opendoor was up 14% on the day. Walmart was actually down, one of the defensives that was taking a little bit of a beating. Same thing with Home Depot. Duolingo, I don't know what's going to get this to go green, but Duolingo was flat. By the way, PayPal somehow could not go green on the day, which is kind of crazy. But PayPal as well, still flat at $60.56. Where was Tesla? We got 418. We got 417 on the close for Tesla. That was up 6.8%. Ondas, incredible day, 29% for Ondas, $8.72 as well. Big Bear AI, that was up 16%. And then BMNR, I really don't know what caused the 20% move in BMNR. ETH was only up about 5%. So, I mean, you did have a lot of people kind of pile into it. I think people started chasing it after they saw Ethereum really make a move, and they wanted more of a proxy towards it that had more beta. And maybe that's what caused the 20% move on Bitmine. But 3114, obviously the volatility of this is attractive to a lot of people, and you have that volatility go to the upside. Bitcoin right there, are we just below 89? Just below 89 at 88.982. Okay, Zoom, I don't think we have their earnings yet. We should be getting it in a second. Zoom tends to be relatively quick. It's not as volatile. I think the implied move is like 3% on earnings. So let's see if we can get those Zoom numbers, but I think that's the only major earnings we have today. Yeah, this should be the only big one. Symbotic also had earnings. We do not have Zoom earnings yet, but this was Symbotic. They missed by 200% on EPS, -3 cents versus -1 cent. And then revenue, $618 million versus $604 million. They beat by 2%. Symbotic is a robotics company. That stock is up 10% after hours. Street likes it. Okay, that's great. Nice. I mean, this is definitely a good day to report earnings. Way better than last week. There you go. Symbotic right there. That's up 10% after a miss on EPS and a beat on revenues. We did say that 3.6 million ETH are now under the accumulation of Bitmine. They bought another 69,000 last week. So they now all own a full 3% of the ETH network, and they will begin staking in Q1 of 2026. Symbotic right there, that's up 10%. Zoom is up 1% after hours. Don't really have the numbers yet, but still waiting for those. So now here's the question for everyone said they don't trust the green. I think it was about 40% of people. Why? What would be the logic? And I think there's plenty of reasons to not trust the green. Is it a vibe? Is it a lack of thinking the rate cut's going to come? Are you still worried about AI bubble? Like, what would be the logic if you had to steelman the side on not trusting the green for today? Trust issues? That's fair. Trust issues is a real deal. That's definitely a decent argument to make. Labor market being bad, that's fair as well. But if labor market's bad, it means we're getting that rate cut. Now, the market would have to hate the labor market data so much that even with the rate cut, they wouldn't be able to make sense of like equities doing better in a low rate environment, which is possible. I just don't know if the labor market is that bad. It's bad. I don't know if it's like full on deteriorating right now, which is, I think, a different question here. I've been hurt before. Green one day, red for a week. VIX still high. The VIX was extreme fear and greed. I still think we're in extreme fear. We are at 14, so that's still extreme fear. The VIX did go down today, but yeah, the VIX is still above 20. It was down 11%, but we are still above 20. That's a fair point. Some people are saying these are all algos just propping it up in order to sell it back. I mean, I couldn't say that's not the case, and I think we're going to need a lot more data to prove that that's not the case. But yeah, that very well could be a reason to take place. He bounced right off the 50-day on the S&P 500. Yeah, a lot of stocks have not even captured or reclaim their 50-day moving averages. I mean, many of them, quite frankly, are still below because we just had such an excessive drawdown last week or over the last 2 weeks. So that is a fair point. Zoom right here getting a little bit of a move. Let me see if I can get those numbers, which is why I think tomorrow is going to be really important. And I know the volume is not going to be the best this week, but if we can at least somewhat reclaim, like 675 on the S&P would be amazing to reclaim if we can get there. But we're going to need to do that. Zoom beat by 6% on EPS, 152 versus 144. Revenue, 1.23 versus 1.21 billion. That's a beat on the top and the bottom. Revenue is up 4% year over year. EPS is up 10% year over year. Zoom with a double beat. Don't think the market cares too much about Zoom. You're getting a little bit of a move right there, 3%. I know that Josh Brown got excited for this stock, I think 2 months ago, because of their enterprise adoption with a variety of new packages and services they're offering. Zoom right there up 3%. Kathy, I still think, has a decent stake in this one. Zoom year to date is down about 3.65%. Down about 3.65%. Keysight Technologies, they also have earnings today. I think this is ticker symbol Keys. I'm not the most familiar with this company, but this is up 7% after hours, $30 billion company. Let me see if I can get their earnings as well. It looks like these guys had earnings. Fluence Energy, I don't see their numbers yet. We'll check in a second. Keys, I don't see their numbers yet either, although that is green. You're not seeing any numbers on that. Let me check Fluence. Fluence right here is up about 2% after hours, but no numbers. At least no numbers yet. Trump, okay, so he's signing a document in the executive order, but he's not there. It's closed press, so we don't know what he's signing. We should find out really soon because he's doing it at 4 p.m. So we will find out what this executive order is. It might be the weed executive order we talked about in the morning. It might be around AI. But we should know very soon what the executive order will look like. Yeah, it's closed to the press, so we still don't have an understanding of what it's going to be. It's AI. So you did have David Sachs, and then we'll get into some of the AI headlines. The AI czar tweet something that I think is very indicative of what the administration is going to be saying. So David Sachs says, according to today's Wall Street Journal, AI investment accounts for half of GDP growth. This is exactly what we talked about last week, that CapEx was half of GDP over the past couple of years, basically since 2023. A reversal would risk recession. We can't afford to go backwards. I mean, like, if Trump signs anything that is rude, I mean, Trump did have a tweet last week about the federal AI standards versus the state-based standards. So maybe it's an executive order kind of trying to nationalize what standards should look like for AI. Trump knows there's no way that we can risk a recession by stopping the AI growth. That is, that's why he asked Zucks, how much are you spending? When he had that meeting with them, he wanted to make sure that Zucks was spending a lot of money. Amazon spending a lot of money, Microsoft. So all that CapEx spend is going to be incredibly important to continue this bull market to go further. And maybe that AI executive order is about that, which again goes back against the Burry argument. I mean, like, when you've got a Trump put on the state of AI and you've got all these companies that are ready to put up the money to continue the investment thesis, which props up the overall CapEx expenditure argument. I mean, eventually that will end one day, but it doesn't have to end anytime soon. By the way, Bloomberg reported that Trump was urging a revival of Rush Hour movies with Larry Ellison. Bloomberg said Trump personally encouraged the billionaire Larry Ellison to bring back the Rush Hour franchise now that he has more control at Paramount Global. This is kind of funny because Paramount's trying to bid for Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers owns the Rush Hour franchise right now. So maybe the executive order is about Rush Hour. But Nebius right there at 91.90, that's green. Bitmine 31.14, that's up 20% after hours. And then Bitcoin right there again at 89,000. I'm curious now what this executive order is. Also, I'm wondering why it's closed. They usually don't close the executive order signing. So I guess we'll get some insights soon on what it looks like and try to see what these earnings come out to be. I still don't have Fluence yet. I'm trying to get that. We did Symbotic. Let's take a look at 2 AI updates, and then we'll get into a couple other stories. Anthropic, they launched a new model today. Here's the update on that model, and obviously Google and Amazon have a stake in this company as well.
So Anthropic is launching its most powerful model yet. It's called Opus 4.5, and it is the new flagship of the Claude family, built for advanced coding, agentic workflows, and enterprise tasks like financial modeling. The update includes new Excel and Chrome tools and a feature called Infinite Chat that prevents memory cutoffs in long conversations. And it comes as Anthropic commits more than $80 billion to compute over the next decade, including a new spend commitment with Microsoft Azure and its own custom-made data centers across the United States. But in terms of this model race, some would argue that Anthropic's chief rival is now Google. Gemini 3, it hit the top of the benchmarks last week. Salesforce's Mark Benioff said he would never go back to ChatGPT after using Gemini 3. So we're really seeing this rivalry heat up, Brian.
Yeah, it really is. It's pretty amazing to watch all.
So you got a new model from Anthropic. You have a lot of praise for Google. Obviously, these LLMs are continuing to get more and more momentum. I mean, I signed up to Claude a couple of weeks ago, and I'm paying the $20 a month. At this point, I'm paying for Claude and Grok, not paying for ChatGPT, and not paying for Gemini yet. The one thing I'm getting annoyed about at Grok is like it can't understand multiple images. So if you send like 2 photos and ask it to analyze it, it can't do a good job at that. ChatGPT is actually way better at dealing with that stuff. But I'm officially paying for 2 models. And I just think more and more the monetization is not slowing down for these models. All right, Fluence earnings, $1 billion in Q4 versus $1.2 billion expected year over year. Net income, $24.1 million versus a net loss. Gross margin at 13.7%. Looks like they put up some decent earnings. Stocks up 9%. Stocks up 9%. Guidance, 3.2 to 3.6 billion. That looks ahead of the expectations. Strong Q4 margin, EBITDA improvement with a record backlog and robust fiscal year 2026 revenue outlook driven by accelerating storage demand. Fluence Energy, that one's up 9%. Okay, there you go. Keysight, again, they also had a great earnings. They beat by 8 cents on EPS, and then revenue beat by 10% as well against the consensus. Keysight, $30 billion company. This one as well is up 8% after hours. And that is great. Do you have any information why Netflix popped before the close? I do not. I will try to see if we can get the headline on Netflix. Oh, wow. There's a lot. Look at these. Look at this order flow, dude. Someone was buying like 400,000 or 500,000 shares in one single block. Look at that, right at the close. I don't see any specific news on Netflix. I will try to find it, but nothing too great. I don't think it's Ackman. Dude, if Ackman actually like got back into the stock, it would be very weird because I mean, he's not one to necessarily go back to some of those names. MP Materials, that's moving a little bit after hours. I kind of think it's Meta, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. It would be quite great. Also, he said, in the morning, he said a stock that has significantly gone down. Netflix is not down. It's still up 30% year to date. So it's not like it's like the most attractive argument, I think, for him. MP right there, $60. That was up 7% on the day, up 1.96%. The rare earth stocks also continuing to make a move. All right, so overall, I mean, a relatively green day across the board. You had a variety of different headlines, whether it was Trump, China, the rate cuts being all but confirmed. They're not confirmed, but it feels like they are confirmed given the Fed future probabilities on those rate cuts. And then obviously you have the broader AI trade continuing to be strong, and the market's excited about it. The market is very, very excited about it. Bluebird earnings, by the way, some people were asking about that one. Bluebird, that stock is up 2% after hours. Revenue is up 17% year over year. All-time record revenue, profit, and EBITDA, reaffirming fiscal year 2026 guidance with strong EV momentum and sustained margin expansion. EPS was $1.11. Revenue was $409 million. Net income was profitable at $36.5 million. And that one is green as well. So there you go. Decent earnings, pretty much all these earnings making a move after hours. Circle as well, up about 1.09% on the day. All right, so let's get into some of the other headlines. Again, the major thing for those that are just joining was the rate cut probabilities. The fact that it came through in the way that it did. Again, these Fed futures are now pricing in a 84.9% chance. That is enough for the markets to really think we're going to get a rate cut. And as a result, I think that's the story. I think it really is that simple. Now, maybe because I think it's that simple, it's not that simple, and we're going to get rug pulled later this week, and so we'll see. But if it is that simple, the market just wants a rate cut, then maybe that was enough today. Baba, that was up 5%. Their new chatbot against OpenAI has hit 10 million downloads in a week.
It reinforces the pattern that Wall Street is starting to appreciate in the AI era. And that is that real breakout products come from companies with the full system. That means models, distribution, infrastructure, data. It's a proof point for Alibaba, much like Gemini 3 was for Google last week, that the company has something that its rivals do not, and that is a full stack or an end-to-end system. Look at how the two companies compare over the last year, both basically dismissed early in the AI era, but two of the biggest winners this year, nearly doubling their stock price. And when it comes to having a complete ecosystem, they both have their own models, they both have cloud businesses, established products with tons of data, and custom silicon, though Google's TPU is much further along here. Now, Alibaba reports tomorrow morning, Dom, and the question for investors is whether the same bull thesis powering Google can now travel to Alibaba. As we showed you, shares have doubled this year, both those companies, but the valuation, there's a difference here. Alibaba still lags at about 23 times forward earnings.
Now, D.
Again, Alibaba is not crazy expensive. 23 times forward earnings is not crazy. And if they're going to be coming out with an integrated ecosystem of AI products along with their own cloud, which Alibaba has, I mean, that's really been the sweet spot for Google, having everything intercorrelated. If Alibaba can do that for Chinese consumers and Chinese enterprises, that would also be a big deal potentially. I mean, some investors might say that would be a copycat of Google's strategy, and maybe the stock price reflects that as well. Here's an update on that executive order. Let's get some coverage and see if that is going to be around AI.
She's right here on set. What do we know about this executive order? And what do we know about what I'll call the turf war that's playing out between the federal government and the states where regulation is concerned?
I mean, Morgan, I think the big headline is that there's just a lot going on with AI right now because, as you mentioned, very interesting battle between the states and the federal government. AI, it's an inter-party battle. It's divided Republicans against Republicans, Democrats against Democrats. But that's not even the topic of the executive order that we're expecting out today. Based on reporting, it's going to be kind of like a Manhattan Project, but for AI. So really encouraging laboratories in the U.S., national federal laboratories, public-private partnerships, energy, basically trying to bring all these different components together to really boost and increase.
Now David Sachs's tweet makes a lot of sense. Again, Sachs tweeted, "We cannot go back on the AI spending. It's half of our GDP." That tweet, as the AI czar, makes a lot of sense if that's what Trump is signing. My only point of confusion is why didn't they stream it? For a president who streams pretty much every big bill, it is kind of weird that they didn't do it publicly. But if it's kind of like a Manhattan Project for AI, if that's what it's going to be, I mean, you're just talking about a lot more money and investment coming into the ecosystem.
Increase AI dominance within the U.S. And we're still waiting to see what, if any, sort of state preemption either comes from Congress in one of these must-pass year-end bills, or if the White House will dust off that executive order they've been working on and try to just go ahead with that.
And it sure seems like the themes in the regulatory conversation are safety versus power. Right? How can we make sure that workers, say, are protected from AI deciding who gets fired versus how can we move ahead as a country and make sure China doesn't beat us because we've got too many, too many laws, regulations in place. You're saying it doesn't seem like any party is taking a strong position firmly on either side?
Well, it's been interesting because, John, I think you really hit the nail on the head. That is the main debate. And you have both Republicans who say, look, we're seeing that there are all these states coming out with new laws. You've had 4 so far this year, many more that were introduced, and saying, hey, this is a patchwork that's going to really make it difficult for AI companies, especially for startups, to continue. So we need to sort of preempt that with a federal standard.
But there are some Republicans and a number of Democrats who are saying, what federal standard? There's really no bill right now that's comprehensive enough and close enough to the finish line to really become that standard. And so what I am hearing from my sources on Capitol Hill is that they're kind of trying to see if there's a way that they can sort of separate what needs to be done at the federal level versus what needs to be done at the state level. So for example, maybe development and deployment of AI would be a federal level thing that the states can't touch. But if the states want to do things on safety, on consumer protections, on protections for kids, on for fraud, there might be the ability to have some carve outs there. But this is a while to go yet. We got to negotiate a number of things to see if folks can get on board, which is part of the reason why you're seeing now all these groups and all these campaigns launched.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about an AI.
I mean, look, this goes back to what Trump said last week about having one federal standard for AI. If you're talking about data centers, energy, electricity, obviously infrastructure around the models, quality of models, if you're talking about that level of a bill to wind all that stuff together, it would be pretty bullish. Now, it wouldn't be a full bill. It would be an executive order. So, I mean, you would probably need some congressional approval to get all of it approved. But at its core, it would be more of a heavy focus on AI, which is what matters. Zeta, by the way, they increased their guidance just now, literally 10 minutes ago. CEO says, we also announced that we are meaningfully increasing our 2025 and 2026 guidance. This acquisition strengthens our One Zeta model. This is the Marigold Enterprise acquisition. Wow. Guiding for 34% year-over-year growth in 2026, 40% year-over-year growth on adjusted EBITDA, 34% on revenue, 42% on free cash flow. Zeta stock up almost 4% after. Zeta was flat the whole day. It wasn't really making a big move. It wasn't flat, but it got sold off kind of once it got to certain levels. Now up 4.5%. I like Zeta. I think it's cheap. I think it's really cheap. And we did a bit of a deep dive on it last week. I don't see the major red flag outside of excessive stock-based comp, which I don't think is a big red flag. Obviously, if the market turns, then Zeta is going to get hit like everything else. But in a market where things are expensive, Zeta does not feel the most expensive. Ondas right there, that's up 30%. Tesla, that's up 7%. PayPal still red as we close out the day. And then Nebius was up 10.38% as well. All right, so if Trump is signing, this could have been another reason the market got these AI stocks to pump. Iran up another 2% after hours. What about CoreWeave? Was that up 5% today? CoreWeave was up 2.7%. So there is a divergence between CoreWeave, Nebius, and Iran. Nebius and Iran kind of move with each other. CoreWeave stays on the sidelines because the market is afraid of their debt. But maybe the market also sniffed out that if Trump is signing some executive order around AI, then the AI stock should get bid up. And that's partly what we saw today. AMD up another 5.53%, still moving after hours. The fact that Google is pushing 320, 319.87 after hours. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, Cypher also had a big deal, or Cypher had a big move today as well. It's quite incredible. It's really quite incredible. But I think a lot of it goes back to the hesitation the market had around the AI trade last week. That hesitation not really living up to the reality of the earnings. Maybe the market needed a couple of days to kind of digest what NVIDIA actually said. NVIDIA is nowhere near where it was after the earnings, still stuck at the low 180s. So it's going to take some time to see if that one can get back to its level. But if it does, that would be pretty bullish as well. Here's the update on the Amazon $15 billion investment into Northern Indiana. The fact that they invested $50 billion this morning in DC and now they're doing another $15 billion in Indiana. This is bullish for Cypher, Iran, Nebius, all those names, because a lot of this work is just going to be outsourced to those neoclouds.
Yes, it has been, Scott. Third announcement of the day, Amazon investing another $15 billion into Northern Indiana to build an AI data center campus. Now, this will serve multiple customers, and a source tells me it's not directly tied to that new OpenAI contract. But what we do know is that the project adds 2.4 gigawatts of capacity, enough to power 1.8 million homes. And it comes on top of that $11 billion Anthropic campus already underway in the area. Since 2010, Amazon has invested more than $31 billion into the state. And a big piece of this is energy. Indiana is rapidly becoming an AI infrastructure hub thanks to an abundance of nuclear and coal power, plus generous local incentives. Part of why you're seeing companies like GM and Samsung build plants just down the road from Amazon. For this new build out, though, Amazon has struck an agreement with the local utility NIPSCO, where the company will finance new generation and transmission lines without raising rates for residents. And Scott, this is actually Amazon's second data center announcement of the day. The company also unveiled a $50 billion plan to build AI and supercomputing infrastructure for the U.S. government.
Now, again, do we just think that's all fake? Like, do we just all think that that's not real? Or Google 320, by the way. Wow. Google 320 after hours and moving higher than 320. But if all that investment's not fake and it's real and it's going to lead a ton of jobs and supply chains and third order derivative companies and neo clouds to be able to make those data centers real, I mean, like, again, the only reason they're developing it is because they have the demand for it. If they didn't have the demand, they wouldn't be developing. It's like it goes back to, like, how can you logically say it's a bubble if the demand, the infrastructure, and the compute is there? And as a result, I think, that's why the market's rewarding a lot of those names in the space. BM&R right there, down a little bit after hours, still up 19.6%. But Google continues to go green. S&P, I think a lot of the S&P move today as well was just based on the Googs right there. Wow, 320.63. Google is now, if I'm not wrong, trading at like 39 times next year's earnings. Or is it this year's earnings? It's definitely getting, 39 times. Well, no, 39 times current is their PE ratio, 38.7. Okay, so that's obviously getting up there, but one could argue that it's getting a fully priced in multiple versus this thing was trading at 15 times at one point earlier this year. 321 after hours on the Googs. Yes, Apple did have an announcement for some layoffs. It wasn't a super large announcement, but nonetheless, it goes back to the argument about the labor market. Apple has eliminated dozens of sales roles in a bid to streamline the way it offers products to businesses, schools, and governments, making a rare layoff for the iPhone maker, as per Bloomberg. This wasn't as dramatic as Verizon or Amazon or UPS over the past couple of weeks, but you did have some layoffs coming out from Apple. OpenAI now is not as cool. Dude, I think we're all collectively seeing a little bit of the coolness factor on OpenAI start to fade. And I don't know. I don't think we are seeing an exciting ecosystem around OpenAI being developed with all of the different products and features Google's coming out with. Also, Google's just shipping faster than OpenAI. They are putting out way more products, and obviously it's a $3 trillion company, so they have the capacity to do so. But nonetheless, if Sam Altman wants to take on Google, he's got a lot of work to do, and he had the head start. He still has more users on ChatGPT weekly than Gemini has monthly. But that could start to diverge pretty quickly. And if that does happen, I think there's going to be a lot of different questions around OpenAI. Google right there, 320.68 after hours. You do have an update from Robinhood in regards to the most activity that certain stocks have been seeing on their platform. So let's pull this up real quick. The 6 major names, NVIDIA, Amazon, Netflix, Tesla, Palantir, and Apple, have been, at least on Robinhood, but retail has been trading the most.
They have for the last week, I would say. And the Apple makes sense to me because it has, not been suffering the same fate as a couple of the other names. So that goes along with what we tend to see. But with, and in NVIDIA and Amazon, those are places obviously that it makes sense to me too, because they've been adding to it, even though they've.
Is this common? Is that like a common top 6? Because those are obviously names that we may have mentioned them once or twice on this network.
Yeah, they are pretty common. You do tend to see some of the names that are also like Opendoor and IREN, like they tend to also get it mixed in there.
Yes,
but not.
IREN, a big AI data center company
but
in
not
Australia.
this time. It's been more of the bigger cap names.
What is the most?
They went on to say that Tesla, Palantir, and Apple have been the most active of trims for Robinhood clients, and Netflix, NVIDIA, and Amazon have been the most active buys. So you have people rotating a bit out of the Tesla, Palantirs, and Apples of the world. All those have had pretty good runs. And look, Amazon makes sense. It hasn't moved all year. Why people are buying it. By the way, Zeta now up 7% after hours on that increased guidance. Netflix has moved, not as much as some of those other names. And then NVIDIA, people continue to be bullish on this broader AI story. CoreWeave's up 1%, IREN up another 2%, Zeta up 7% after hours, MP Materials up 1%, Zoom now up 3%. And then you got Bitcoin at 89,000. Google's trading at 21 times 2025 for earnings. Okay, so it's like, again, it just does not feel like this is bubble hype. Even if Google was at 40 times earnings, NVIDIA's at like, what, 43, 44 times? Like, these are not crazy, crazy multiples. The one thing the bears can't say is that the most important companies in the world are trading at the most ridiculous multiples in the world. Maybe you can say Tesla at 200 times, but then again, Tesla is Tesla, right? Tesla's always had one of those multiples, but every other name is under 60 times, definitely under 30 times for a lot of these different names. And you can't say it's that scary. Dude, imagine we recapture 100K on Google by the end of the year. Or sorry, not on Bitcoin. I mean, if Google went to 100K, that'd be fun too. But if Bitcoin could get 100K again by end of year, that would be fun. Is it time to take some Google profits? That's a good question. All right, so for those that are heavy in Google in the chat, what would be your answer to that question? Is it time to take some profits? Again, I sold my calls at around 250. So I am out of my calls. I took my profits. I mean, look, I think the only argument to take profits on Google would be like the fear of a correction early 2026, which who knows what could happen. But it seems like everything's going right. Seems like everything, like you've been waiting forever for the AI fee. By the way, the seriousness of Google. I mean, Larry Page is now the second richest man in the world. The co-founder of Google is now the second richest guy in the world. He just beat Larry Ellison, and he is beneath Elon Musk. Like, I heard that today, and I was like, whoa. Like, when's the last time you heard one of the Google co-founders up there in the top 5 richest people? Like, they usually don't get talked. It's usually Elon, Zucks, Larry Ellison, all these guys. So, and one of the reasons is, him and Sergey came back to the company and started really changing things around. Last year, they had that big interview saying that they were back at the office every single day. And I don't know. I think selling Google here would imply that you are afraid they can't live up to the multiple expectations. I don't think Google's trading at a multiple where they're not going to be able to live up to the expectations. I feel like if anything, they're going to surpass the expectations. And now you have Berkshire on your side that bought in around, I mean, from estimates 170 to 230. So are they going to sell at 300 for like, they get $5 billion stake to sell at 300? Just doesn't seem that likely. This is the Google co-founder last year talking about why he's back at Google.
Like recently, I just had a big tiff inside the company because we had this list of what you're allowed to use to code and what you're not allowed to use to code. And Gemini was on the no list.
You have to be pure. You can't.
I don't know, for like a bunch of really weird reasons that it was like boggled my mind that
you couldn't vibe code on the Gemini code.
I mean, nobody would like enforce this rule, but there was this, actual internal webpage for whatever reason, historical reason, somebody had put this, and I had a big fight with them. And I cleared it up after a shockingly long period of time.
You escalated to your boss.
Oh, I definitely told Sundar about it. And
Sergey, I don't know if you remember, but you got super voting founder.
You are the boss.
You can do what you want. It's your company still.
No, it was, he was very supportive. It was more like, I was like, I talked to him. I was like, I can't deal with these people. You need to deal with this. Like, I just like, I'm beside myself that they're like saying
it's weird that there's bureaucracy like in a company that it must be a weird experience to meet the bureaucracy in a company that you didn't hire.
Well, they started getting rid of a lot of that bureaucracy. They started getting rid of a lot of that bureaucracy. And so when the founders came back late 2023, early 2024, I remember early 2024 is when Google shipped their image model, and there was like so many different issues with it. And there were just a lot of different problems with how the market was thinking of Google. Then they got caught up in the DOJ lawsuit. Every single headwind is now gone. I mean, one could argue the only headwind that exists, Zeta, by the way, up 8% after hours on that increased guidance, is the lack of compute capacity, which is why Google is investing so much in data centers. They're doing $40 billion in Texas, as per they announced last week. And so if most of the headwinds have turned into tailwinds, and you got Berkshire on board in terms of investing, and we're getting another rate cut, I don't know. It's definitely being a bit greedy to hold on here, unless you want to, secure some core profits. But if you truly have a 10-year horizon on Google, I don't think selling into the strength makes the most sense, unless you just want to avoid some of the downside pain, which is inevitable in 2026. I'm sure, there's will be some pullbacks here and there. But if you got in at like 150, 170, 200, selling here to buy cheaper than that, you would just need a really dramatic pullback, which I don't know if that's that likely. Same thing with NVIDIA, right? If you bought NVIDIA at 120, like, are you going to sell it at 180 just to buy back at 140 on the off chance it might get there? It's hard to do that. Tesla right there, 417, as that goes green after hours as well. Wow, so we have $30 average on Google. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I would imagine have also held Google for a long time. Like, shout out to Matt Money. He's been buying Google since forever. And in 2022 is when he kind of doubled down on the Googs when it was at like $90. He's not selling. And I think he's been just holding on for a very long time. Wow, Broadcom was up 11% today. Goodness, dude. Freaking Broadcom up 11.1%. Almost at all-time highs. All-time highs is 386. It's at 377. That is purely based on Google TPU demand, leading to the market excited about Broadcom. Zeta, again, increased their guidance after hours. That's why that stock is up. All the quantum names as well are running today. Micron, yeah, that's up 8%. Google right here, 320. I ran 49.46. That's up 2%. We need this type of movement on NVIDIA. We kind of had this movement on the earnings, and then obviously the earnings took a beating after everything collapsed. But I think it's actually nice for NVIDIA to have a slow move back to all-time highs. Like, I think NVIDIA running back to 200 probably wouldn't be healthy, which is basically what it did after earnings. So if it's going to take its time and slowly make a move to get there, then I think that's reasonable. But I don't think that should happen overnight. And Google took some time. Took some time to finally get there, but once it did, it was well worth Google being at those levels. Parval says, I've got Google in my oldest safe port at $110. Never considered trimming it. I'm not starting anytime soon. The idea that I'll find a better place to put my capital is silly to me. Yeah, that is the other issue. Unless you want to hold on to cash, right? You need a better idea when you sell. And if you don't have a better, this is a lot of the reasons why I haven't sold many names that it's like, where else would I put the money? There's not that many other exciting places that I have a long-term horizon on if I sell. These were the top 20 stocks to trade in the options market today. Google actually made it to number 4. Google is usually barely in the top 20. Google doesn't make the top 20 in options. Their options market is pretty liquid, but you just don't have that many traders there. Google now number 4 with 935,000 options today, 2.7 million for NVIDIA, 1.7 million for Tesla, IBIT at 982,000. And you have Apple, Amazon, AMD, Meta, Palantir, SoFi, Broadcom, MicroStrategy, Intel, Opendoor, Microsoft, Baba, Netflix, Iren, and the Ethereum ETF, as they all went green on the day. Stock of the day that shocked me was BMNR. Yeah, I didn't expect a 20% move either on BMNR. I think that's the market saying we are calling a bottom on ETH and we're going to buy the most high beta name to get exposure to take advantage of that bottom. Is MicroStrategy, were they up today? MicroStrategy, yeah, it was up 5%. Nothing too impressive. Bitmine just completely expanded their NAV right here, or their MNAV, as Ethereum was only up 5% on the day. Where was Microsoft? MSFT. This one was also flat at 474. Jason will be on tomorrow. Yes, we will have Technical Tuesday again tomorrow. We had an edition of that on Friday, and he'll be back tomorrow. He did text me. He said that we hit Thursday highs. Maybe we're going to breach them slightly, which will take us back to Wednesday, but it's okay to be hedged until then. He also said 680 S&P. If we can get back to that level, markets would be really, really happy which, I mean, I agree. 680 would be very, I mean, again, we're not that far off from all-time highs at 689. It felt like that a couple weeks ago, even on Thursday. But we're closing in on 670, which is not that far. Bitcoin 88.9, VG, this was down about 2.9% of the day. Applied Digital, 12% up on the day. UNH was actually red. BABA ended up going 5%. They have earnings tomorrow. And then Coinbase got a 6.2% move as well today. Let's go to the stock draft, see how that's doing. Dude, if I didn't have Duolingo, if I didn't it's doing well, but if I just didn't have a stinker of 63% down, it would be better. 23% on mine. Matt's at 15. Tanner's at 12. Steve's getting close to break even, still negative, and then Chris is at 4%. Novo got hit today with the Alzheimer's drug, not really panning out. And so that's why that stock took a 10% hit today. But this is where we are in the stock draft. Is the glitch over? Dude, I hope so. Can we glitch back up? It's time to glitch up. Like, when are we can always glitch down. We need to glitch up. Figma even was up on the day, 3.38%. Bitmine, 19%. And then Micron at 226. Saylor did not buy the dip last week. No, he bought it 102,000. I think they ran out of money last week. And so they did not buy that. Explain the bull case for BMNR. I will link the Substack I did on this. By the way, I have another piece coming out. I told you guys I was working on that bifurcated economy piece, so that will be out later tonight. But I did a deep dive on this about a month ago. We'll link it right here. Thesis is pretty simple, but a lot of the thesis rests on Ethereum. And I think what a lot of people didn't anticipate, I think none of us anticipated, the velocity of decline on Ethereum from 4,000 to 2,700. Like, that was just, I don't know, I didn't see that coming. And obviously crypto is volatile, but like that just made a lot of people wonder, how did that even play out? And that's why everyone was looking to an answer. And, you know, the answer from Tom Lee was this glitch, which maybe that's the case, maybe it's not, but I think that's what shocked everybody. And ultimately, you're either able to hold on to the volatility or not, but we all pretty much got cooked on it. Grindr was down today because it looks like the acquisition of going private is not happening. That's why that stock was down 12%. They were supposed to go private at $18 a share. It looks like there's some controversy around that. And so the PE firm that was going to take them out is likely not taking them out. That's why that stock was down 12%. If we get a good PPI print, we should have another good green day tomorrow with low volume environment, since you need high volume for big drops. Yes, I agree. And we will get PPI tomorrow. I'm hoping the PPI is relatively reasonable. Now, granted, you would imagine that the reason Trump's lowering all these tariffs and he's kind of trying to focus more on affordability is because the cost of living is higher. So maybe PPI isn't as good as we think. The case, market's going to have to figure out how to price that in with the rate cut. Again, when you have two influential Fed presidents like Daly and Williams come out and say they support a cut, and then you already have Waller, Moran, obviously Jay Powell's leaning probably more towards it. Even with a hotter PPI, I don't know if that's enough to quell concerns around that rate cut happening. Yes, I am in Zeta. Bought Zeta 2 weeks ago. Again, I like it. Not a massive position, but I do have it. And I don't know, it just seems cheap, dude. We did a Twitter Spaces on it. You guys can listen to that from a couple weeks ago. It just seems really cheap. Like, I'm surprised at how much they've increased their guidance and how many quarters in a row they've beat and raised. It's not in the sexiest sector, but they are utilizing AI for advanced analytics and marketing. And it just feels like fair value for the stock is closer to $27-30. So I like it. Andy, thank you for the super chat from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for keeping us sane through these swings. I really don't know what I'd do without your streams, man. Andy, appreciate you being here. I think for all of us last week, it was very, very emotional. And no matter where you were, I mean, the only place you could have hid last week was realistically Walmart or gold. If you didn't have Walmart stock, which was up 7% on the Thursday where everything reversed, or at gold, I mean, you were feeling it last week. If you were in crypto, you were feeling it. Nvidia, you were feeling it. Quantum, you were feeling it. Nuclear, you were feeling it. AI stocks, you were feeling it. Data center, you were feeling it. Big, large cap tech, you were feeling it. I mean, SoFi, for some reason, went to $23 on Thursday. Palantir was below 150. Like, it was ugly. It was an ugly, ugly week. And so I think, when that stuff happens more often than not, we all got to stick together and really see, is there any truth to this bull market? And I think what we did last week, and I think Steve and I did a couple streams together, the entire point of those streams was to figure out, are we crazy, or like, did we just make up this bull market in our imagination? Was this shit all fake? Like, was the past year fake? Was all the earnings growth fake? Was everything just like a mirage? And we're waking up from the dream? Or is the market just having a temper tantrum? And it's too early to tell, but it definitely feels last week that the market was having a bit of a temper tantrum. And hopefully that tantrum is enough. Yeah, you guys started a freaking emit rent fund last week. That's so bad. So bad. God. Lily was also a winner. That is correct. Lily was a winner. Amit is happy again. I'm glad Amit's feeling better. Okay, so first of all, two things, and I said this on Steve's stream. Number one, like, obviously the market going down affects all of us emotionally. There's no way that you're going to be able to like hide your emotions getting hit. It's just inevitable. When you're down lots and lots of money, like, it sucks and you just feel like crap. Second of all, I don't know how to be a super, super happy guy when everyone's losing money and the S&P is down 2% in a day. Like, you just can't have the most optimistic of attitude. You have to kind of read the room a little bit, right? Like, if everyone's feeling like shit. So you can't be like, wow, guys, we're down 2% on the day. This is incredible. We're down so much money. It's like, no, like, that's not. So naturally you have to, tone down the excitement. But that's how it is, right? That's like on a nasty red day or nasty red week, it's also not going to be the most exciting. Unless I had shorts. If I was excited last week, that's how you know I don't have any freaking hedges. If I was excited last week, if I was like, wow, man, that sucks. That is so bad. Like, if that was my reaction last week, all of you would have known this motherfucker is hedged. He has so many shorts. But that wasn't the case. And if I was, I would have told you guys, because I would have looked pretty damn smart having a ton of shorts going into last week. But, if we don't have that stuff, then it is what it is. I just don't I don't think we all expected it to happen. And that's how these things implode. Like, it happens when you least expect it. Right? No one freaking expected it. I don't think a lot of people expected Ethereum 4,500 to 2,700. Like, really? Which kind of start Bitcoin 126 to 87. I mean, I think a lot of us are planning to hedge going into 2026 because we thought, okay, end of year is booked. Gains are likely going to stay where they are. We don't really have to fight that hard for the last 6 weeks of the year. And boy, is this market making us fight for the last 6 weeks of the year. And I think if a lot of us knew that we were going to have to fight, you would have thrown on some more hedges. But that's just sometimes how it goes. I ran, by the way, up 2% after hours. Circle as well, making a little bit of a move, up 1.4% after hours. Mark Noon predicted this in October. Yeah, that is true. And he was on CNBC this morning, and he still thinks that we're going to be pretty choppy. He's not the most optimistic or bullish, even with the current trend today that we had to the upside. So, yeah, I mean, he did say November was going to be choppy. It's just that choppiness. I mean, almost 50% decline in Ethereum was a hell of a choppy November. And it kind of lets all these other high beta names get hit. Are we worried about Burry's reveal tomorrow? Burry's reveal is already a Substack. He launched it last night. So it is a Substack. That is the reveal. I don't think it's going to be anything else from that. But that's pretty much it. So, look, I think his Substack is going to be one of those look, his Substack's either going to be something chronicling the AI story over the next 5 years correctly, or it's going to be a Substack that gets it wrong, meaning it's going to be a take on the markets, which, by the way, he had a blog back in 1999 And that blog kind of chronicled the dot-com bubble, right? So he's kind of going back to where he wanted to be. And now it's, part of the ecosystem of social media with Substack. But I mean, he's already claimed that this is all a bubble and it's going to pop. So the question is he going to be right about that? If it is going to pop, is it going to be such an aggressive .com type of pop? Or is it going to be a slow wind down over, 2030 to 2035 after this run until 2030? I mean, there's a lot of nuance to it. But based on how he's kind of framing it, he thinks, and based on his put position on NVIDIA and Palantir, he thinks it's going to happen relatively soon. So he's either going to be right or he's going to be wrong. But again, with all the data we're getting every single day, these depreciation arguments aren't convincing. And then when you see the level of investment that's happening, either Amazon's lying about investing $65 billion like they announced today, Google's lying about the $40 billion they're putting in Texas, or you got to take them at their words. We don't know if he fully closed the shorts. He did say on his introduction to the Substack that the problem with running Scion Asset Management was that there was too much regulatory scrutiny. So he wasn't able to actually speak. And so now he's really happy because he has the chance to speak and he doesn't have to literally disclose every single position. So unless he discloses his position, he's not legally required to. Google, by the way, 321 after hours. But nonetheless, he is still pretty bearish. Vlogging about bubbles makes more money than shorting the stocks. See, that's the thing about Burry, though. He loves the excitement and the attention. So I wonder if he's actually going to throw on a short and just say, screw it. I've got my skin in the game. And if he doesn't, and it's just pure content, then it's like, okay. But there's a lot of accounts that are trying to call the top of this. Ethereum's still moving a little bit after hours. What if we get a crazy Thanksgiving pump? It's possible. It's just a little tough potentially given the lack of volume we have on Thanksgiving week. But maybe it happens. And again, speaking of Burry and getting people to be convinced after being doubters, take a look at Gene Munster. This guy called Google eBay at 150. And now he's saying it's one of the best Mag 7 stocks to own.
Order, giving expectations that show that we're in a good place. Essentially, they're capturing all of this renewed interest that people have in finding out information and trying or tunneling that into search revenue. And the second piece is that this gets by to why the stock is up today is that this Gemini showing that they in fact have the chops to compete toe-to-toe from a large language model perspective against OpenAI is encouraging for investors that the company's culture has been reignited to compete. And so what that's important is that over the next year, you're going to see more distribution. That's what the playbook's going to change for next year around these chatbots. Keep in mind that it's only about 20% of the Google population uses a chatbot daily. Big opportunity. And I think as they expand that, the multiple go up.
So why wouldn't I assume that ChatGPT will get more distribution and pull it away from whatever you think Gemini 3 is going to deliver, and then the stock Alphabet has already had an amazing run. So isn't a lot of what you're suggesting already in the stock?
Well, let me take the second part first. Is as of right now, it's trading at 28 times the next 12-month earnings. And that's in line with the rest of, I'll call it the Mag 6. Tesla aside here, it trades at 170 multiples. So take that out of it. So yes, it has moved up, but essentially it's that regain on that first part that we talked about. Competing in search has kind of allowed the multiple to kind of get back on par. And so I think that is understandable. And then the second on the distribution question, if we look at what OpenAI has done such a good job, they've been great at building the brand. Of course, they are the brand when it comes to chatbots. The good job part is them using Apple's distribution. That has not worked for them to date. They'll get another crack at that, of course, next spring when the new Siri comes out. But if you think about Google's distribution, it's just habitual. At the end of the day, there's 2.5 billion people use Google search daily. And that compares to my estimates of about 500 million daily Chat GPT users. They give a metric of 800
but I know,
million
but
weeklies.
one is young, one is incredibly mature. You would, of course, you would expect those numbers from a search engine that's been around for forever. Relative to OpenAI. The other thing is 30 times forward for Alphabet must be significantly ahead of their historical average.
It is. If you look at the historical average, it's 20 over the past 5 years. It's a 23 multiple, so it is measurably above that. But I wouldn't put it in the category of egregious. And I think there is, I mentioned the multiple expansion, but there is upside to earnings as well. But I want to get back to this point about the old versus the new. I think that's really important just in terms of the brand piece to this is indeed is OpenAI ChatGPT is the new generation. I mean, it is Google is kind of has this kind of dusty kind of brand, but at the end of the day, again, Google is a habit for people. And so as they can convert, and you're seeing it as they're kind of encouraging AI mode when you get an AI overviews with a typical search, and then it gives you a button for AI mode. But if they start to steer some of that traffic into a pure Gemini mode, you can see them building a big $20 a month business. That's 80% of OpenAI's business today is the consumer side of ChatGPT. And so I think that there is, agree the brand is old, but I also think that it's also a habit. And I think that that's an opportunity for Google.
It's kind of crazy. Gene Munster now saying that the distribution Google has is their moat. Him and Josh Brown got bearish Google at 150, like really bearish Google. And just it doubled. $2 trillion company, basically doubled. At that time, it was like $1.75 trillion company. Doubled. I mean, that's not easy to do for a company of this size, but nonetheless, that happened. And again, this is kind of why people say you're looking for fear in the markets, right? Because not everyone can be bullish. The fact that there were so many people that had a lot of influence that were bearish on Google, that was the opportunity. You need people to hate Robinhood at $6 because of GameStop for someone else to buy it. And it's really kind of what makes the market. You know, there was this good clip I saw today as well of our boy Vlad kind of defining the structure of a prediction market. And the way he described it, I thought was really, really important in terms of kind of how a prediction market actually takes place. And like, I've never heard it described like this, but this is actually a really sort of important argument. Basically, he was speaking about how you have three different parts of the market that have to come together in order for things to ultimately make sense to make prediction markets as real as they are.
This particular one, it'd be hard to argue that
it's not random chance that you could have specific knowledge on something and feel like you have more experience to bet on that outcome.
Yeah, or a hedging benefit.
Yes.
Right. So could there be knowledge or skill involved, or is there a hedging benefit or a speculation benefit to these markets? I mean, if you think about it, if you're trading futures, and these are prediction markets are by the same regime, the CFTC that regulates futures, do you have a deep understanding of like the price of copper or corn? You know, some people do. Some people actually study this. A lot of people have some dependency elsewhere in their life on the price of copper, and they're hedging against it. And so what makes a vibrant derivatives market is three different market participants in equilibrium. You have the speculators who have a point of view on what the price should be, and they're speculating. And some people call speculators gamblers. But if the technical derivatives parlance, it's speculators. But you need them also, because you also have the hedgers. And the hedgers are trying to offload risk. But not everyone can be hedging, because then the price gets out of whack. So you need the speculators to actually bring the hedgers into equilibrium. And then you have the third group, which is the arbitrageurs. The arbitrageurs are basically playing a low risk, low latency game. They're connected to every market.
That's a hell of a word, by the way. Arbitrageurs. I would have just said, then you have the people who like to engage in arbitrage. I would not be able to say arbitrageurs. That's the first that I learned that word is a thing.
And they're like, oh, corn's at $1 here and it's at $2 here. I'm going to buy up all the corn for $1 and sell it at the same time for $2. And they provide a valuable service too, because you want to make sure that if you're hedging or speculating, you don't really care about which market you're going into because there's overhead in that. So they make sure the prices are uniform across everything. So there's a lot of people that just think trading in general is gambling. I reject that premise. I think that these are useful markets and people are providing valuable services and kind of hedging their risk, speculating, or sharing a point of view.
And how does your own
one thing Vlad has also been talking about when it comes to the prediction markets, and again, the reason I played that is because it goes back to this argument about you need some people to be scared, some people to be nervous, some people to speculate, and that's what kind of creates a market. And obviously, that's what created a market for Google. Vlad's been talking a lot more about AI leading to an ecosystem where people get to do more things for fun. And Elon's been talking about money is going to be pointless in the future. Jobs are going to be optional, et cetera. I think Vlad's take, he hasn't given his TED Talk yet, or he gave his TED Talk, but it hasn't been posted yet. But his TED Talk is about the idea around investing as a career. And the kind of concept around it, and I've been kind of reading between the lines of what he's been saying more and more about prediction markets, is that, just take a look at this tweet right here. He says, more and more people will be paid to play games and do other jobs that we think of leisure now. Consider chess, one of the first intellectual domains in which AI achieved superhuman performance. People were saying chess was dead after Deep Blue beat Kasparov in 1997. Now, nearly 30 years later, the chess industry is 5 to 10x bigger with over 3x the grandmasters, and there's tons of influencers that literally have built a career off playing chess. He says money will continue to be important with artificial superintelligence because we will still have private property, and private property necessitates money, but more and more people will be paid to play games. I think he's kind of implying that there is a world in which more people will be using prediction markets, using the stock market, using different forms of arbitrage as a way to make a living if you have labor ultimately get commoditized and you have the insight for more creativity, which essentially if you're betting on the Knicks versus the Pacers, like some people will say it's pure gambling, but other people say, well, no, there's a lot of research that goes into learning about what the probabilities and the statistics of the outcome of the game could become. And AI is just only gonna make that easier. AI is just gonna become like your personal assistant to help you understand, the nuances of different sports teams, just like it's a personal assistant to understand the nuances of if you should buy a call option on AMD going into next year. And if more and more people have the time to be able to engage in that type of creative work and then speculate and or invest based on that, could that be a new source of income for people in a world of AI? I think that's what he's kind of implying with these prediction markets, which is why they become a lot more critical than not, and why the market opportunity for them becomes so much more massive if we do have a new economy formed just off the nature of prediction markets. If everyone has AI, how do you win? That's a good question. And I don't know the answer to that. It's a fair question, because if everyone has AI when they're trading, and it's just AIs versus AIs, theoretically, the AI should be so good that there's no edge, there's no alpha. A lot of the alpha comes from human emotion. Like someone thinking that Google is dead because their kids aren't using Google as much. That's an emotional decision that they've made, even if it's an anecdotal experience they have. And that's what leads them to sell their shares at 150. This is kind of Josh Brown's argument, right? His kids were not using Google anymore. And it allows someone else to buy them because they have a different emotional understanding or even a data-driven understanding of the company. So it is a fair point, but maybe we are far away from AIs going back and forth with each other. Nate's in the chat. Zeta's up. Yes, Zeta is up 8.3%. It's funny. Davis texted me today and he was so mad. He was like, dude, how's everything up except Zeta? Well, there you go. There it is. Nate's getting into Zeta a lot more as well now. So Nate is becoming a fan of this name. And it makes sense. The growth is there. It's hard to deny the growth. 18.93. That's up 8.3% on the day. After hours with Zeta. Are you as bullish on Meta as Chris is? So Chris, from my understanding, is loading up the boat on options on Meta. I'm bullish. I don't know if I'm load up the boat on options, But then again, that's Chris's strategy. When he gets conviction, he will load up, and whether he's right or wrong, he will take advantage of the opportunity. Look, I think Meta does. I think once the CapEx fears are gone around where the ROI is coming, I think they're going to be okay. I don't know if it happens by tomorrow or by end of next year, which is why the options are a little hard to get super excited about. But I think if you just want a stock that's trading at a reasonable multiple and it's a great quality company, yeah, I don't think Meta's the scariest name in the world. I really don't. So I think we should be all right. Oh, we got some updates on the AI executive order. White House, Trump signed executive order related to AI research. Okay. Let's see if we can get some more updates on this. AI research. Trump also told his advisors he's planning to speak directly with Nicolas Maduro. Okay, so that's a different headline from the AI research stuff. Obviously, that has to do with what's been going on with Venezuela. AI research, what does that mean? Is he cutting regulations? Is he creating new frameworks? Let's see if the White House website has anything here. No, nothing from the website yet. We should be getting an update soon, but nothing officially yet. Just AI research is what the executive order was linked to. That's what we have right now. Would you invest in METU? Is this leveraged Meta? Oh my goodness, this is leveraged Meta. No, I would not. I would not. Dude, I kind of want to stay away from all forms of margin going into next year. Which is kind of crazy because one green day and people start thinking about leverage again, which is like, it's the nature of this market, but it's also like, I don't know, what if 2026 isn't the strongest for the first part of the year? Now, again, I think it's inevitable it becomes a bull market because you have a dove coming in to replace Powell. But these things can get hit with the theta decay and the NAV erosion very quickly. So, no, I would just buy the stock. Like Meta stock going back to 750 would be great. Even if you don't have some crazy amount of options on it. Now, if Meta was trading at like 500 or something, like then I would be like, okay, this one is getting stupid. But still at 600, it's attractive for options. I don't know if it's like load the boat attractive on options. But then again, it's also your risk tolerance. You know, how much risk are you willing to take on this? Let me see on the White House website. Do I have the executive order? I don't have it yet for AI. Wait, do we? Is this it? Oh, I got it. Okay, the Genesis mission. That's what it's called. The Genesis mission. Yes, tomorrow we'll have TT. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and laws of the United States, it is hereby ordered. America is in a race for global technology dominance and the development of AI. To that end, my administration has taken a number of actions to win that race, including issuing multiple executive orders. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to copy all this shit. We're going to go to Grok. Tell me all the exec orders in bullet points from this. We're not reading this shit. We don't read anymore. We don't read, we summarize. We summarize. Okay, so Grok says it's directing the secretary to establish and operate the platform, provided integrated high-performance computing AI frameworks and tools. Within 90 days, they want to identify data models, a plan for a corporation, and within 240 days, they want to review robotics labs and facilities. Within 270 days, demonstrate internal capabilities for at least one of these challenges. Number 2, identify a national science and technology challenge. Within 60 days, the secretary submits at least 20 challenges around advanced manufacturing, biotech, critical materials, nuclear energy, quantum science, and semiconductors to be able to get approved. The overall Genesis mission is accelerating AI-driven innovation using federal data sets, national labs, businesses, universities, infrastructure to solve major challenges. And the assistant to the president for science and technology provides leadership via the National Science and Technology Council. So the APST via the NCTC is going to align with all the objectives around building out a variety of different, what they're calling is challenges that the president is establishing in the executive order. It seems like a big R&D project. That's what it feels like. It seems like a big R&D project. External partnerships with AI and data experts, cybersecurity, reporting every 90 days, robotics labs, identifying different use cases for different models. The DOE is going to be involved in this, Department of Energy. The administration did give $1 billion to Constellation last week as a loan. So it makes sense that they're getting involved with energy. And the goal is to make AI as a key frontier. As a key frontier. Ask Grok to give it to us like a 10-year. Okay. Re-summarize in 2 sentences as if I'm 10 years old. President Trump started a super cool project called the Genesis mission to use smart computers called AI to help scientists solve big problems like making better energy, new medicines, and fancy tech stuff and super fast. It's a team of America's best brains, labs, and companies using secret data and powerful computers to make our country the strongest in science and keep us safe and rich. Okay, bullish AI. Just ask Grok and Palantir's inside the document. This is bullish Palantir, bullish NVIDIA, bullish. I mean, this is bullish all of them. All of them in some way or another. Google, Break, and 321 After Hours are going to participate in the research and development that's needed to make this become a thing. Wow, BitMine still moving after hours, up 1%. Yeah, bullish quantum. I mean, bullish energy. It's just a lot of these stocks got a really big move going into October. And so the market is reset. Expectations have also been reset. But all those sectors are still, theoretically going to be valuable. It's up to the execution in those individual companies to work towards it. Bullish Amcor, again, American reindustrialization, onshoring of semiconductor manufacturing, MP, rare earths. I mean, that is what the theme of the bull market has been all year, is that this AI revolution will require all different types of players in the advertising space, in the R&D space, in the drug pharmaceutical discovery space, in the data center space, in the energy space, in the enterprise workflow space, in the utilities space. Obviously, all of these sectors should increase massive levels of investment, which should create opportunities. And then as a result, if consumers have higher wages, if companies have better margins, that should lead to defensives like a Walmart doing better because more people have money in their pocket. The flip side of this is that the labor market suffers because of AI, which is very possible. By the way, there was a podcast, I didn't listen to the whole thing last night, but the founder of Stability AI, he did a podcast last night, and he says we have 1,000 days. I'll link the pod if anyone wants to listen to it. He says we have 1,000 days before AI completely starts destroying the entire job market. And I don't know if you want to say he's a bit of a doomer. I mean, he has an AI company. There's definitely some doomerism in how he's talking about it. But I was just curious to hear the perspective. And the perspective is that AI is getting so good that most jobs, his argument is AI will essentially end capitalism. Which, if you take it to its logical extreme, yeah. I mean, it technically could if everyone loses their jobs and there's no goods or services being produced because no one can afford it. But will it also entice forms of capitalism to create new opportunities? At least that's the optimistic view. But if we got 3 years, then we got 3 years. Let's make the best of it. It's kind of crazy though. I mean, this market reversal today, I didn't even expect as big of a move as we got today. I mean, we saw it in the futures last night that there was a chance, but it could have easily gone the other way, dude. And if we went down another 1%, I mean, it would have been so ugly going into the final week of November. So at some point, the market just said enough was enough. And we're moving up. So AI can help us all retire. Yes, exactly. Either by force or implicitly. Nebius moving a little bit after hours. Google still moving after hours. And Bitcoin trying to get up to 89,000 as well. There won't be capitalism, but there will be plenty of capital. That is the other big concern that a lot of people have, is that, you know, capitalism will exist, but the capital will be tied up at the top, which already kind of exists. It's just, it is ironic though, because AI's entire thesis, or one of the entire theses around AI, is that it's going to democratize capital that's being spent, which it is. You know, anyone can start a business tomorrow, and it's easier now that you have AI. But because anyone can start it, it becomes more competitive, and then, you know, the big models just continue to win at the level that they're winning at. I still want to take a more optimistic view on it though. Like, yes, will it replace a lot of jobs? 100%, but I don't think it's going to be the crazy doomsday scenario that everyone thinks of. Like truck drivers. Dude, I don't think we're replacing truck drivers anytime soon. Eventually that'll happen. But like, we're talking about trucks on the highway with massive chemicals and oil and inventory. Like, you're telling me that's just going to be automated tomorrow? So yeah, FSD is good, Waymo's good, and they're getting better. But I don't think when you have a truck with that much inventory, especially inventory that if it were to, you know, get into a crash would be devastating, I don't think that easily gets automated yet. And there's a lot of other jobs that fit that criteria. Now, eventually they get automated, but I don't think it happens in 3-4 years. At least I would hope that doesn't happen that quick. Yeah, plumbers and electricians, same argument as well. I don't think it happens that soon. All right, I think that's pretty much it for today. We don't have anything else crazy. I'm not seeing any other headlines. Most of the headlines around this Trump AI order are in. You had some crypto headlines this morning that were relatively bullish. We talked about that as well. That also could have been the reason why you had a Bitcoin Ethereum pump. They're seeing more excitement. What happened to the cruise lines today? You know, they were down. I don't know. Wow. Why was Carnival down 7%? Norwegian was down 3%. Didn't Carnival had one of their best earnings in history last quarter? They got an upgrade from Goldman a couple weeks ago. Dude, even freaking Byron Donalds, one of our representatives, bought Carnival. That's weird. Why did they go down 7% today? Oh, we got a headline. We got a headline. Hold on. S&P headline. S&P headline. Hold on. Wow. SanDisk. I know some bear. The amount of bears on this name on X, they've got to be pissed right now. Not only was this up 13% on the day, it's up 9% after hours. They're replacing Interpublic in the S&P 500. People have been just trying to short the crap out of this, and it worked last week. Not today. First of all, okay, so I don't even know what Interpublic is. What the hell is Interpublic? Apparently, this is a name in the S&P 500. This stock is a $10 billion company. Interpublic is an American conglomerate that consists of 5 major networks. It's an advertising company. It's an ad agency. Okay, so SanDisk is replacing them right here. This is a surprise replacement, right? Today's not the day for S&P announcements. That usually happens on the first Friday of December. It's up 9% right there. SNDK for SanDisk. Remember, this is a memory company at its core. There's a lot more nuance to it, but they are a memory company. And they re-IPO'd in February. They've been around since 1998. The stock is up 500% this year. Wow. 9% move right there. on the S&P. Yeah, that news came out of nowhere. That news I was not expecting. I mean, I don't see any. SoFi, yeah, guys, SoFi could get in. I just don't know if it happens that early. I think they're going to make SoFi wait for it. Like, I think 2025 or 26 is definitely getting in. I don't know if they're going to let them in at the end of the year. I think 2026 for sure, though. There's not that many other companies that likely even qualify for the S&P. And SoFi is probably there with a handful of them. So I think SoFi for sure next year. I mean, if they give it to them at the end of December, that would only be 6 months after they became eligible, which usually doesn't happen. If that does happen, then maybe the S&P is just like, screw it. We need some of the best companies in here. But if they do, that'd be a hell of a Christmas gift for SoFi. SoFi right there, 27.59, up a little bit after hours. SanDisk. Does anyone own this thing? I mean, I've known SanDisk as a brand for years. I didn't even realize they went public this year again. And the stock's up 5x. I do not think Reddit will get in. No. I think they're going to make a lot of these companies wait. I mean, Reddit went public. Reddit went public last year. They're not that nice. I mean, they made Palantir wait 4 years. They made Robinhood wait 4 years. Even though you could say that those companies deserved it way before they officially got in. So, yeah, SoFi's only been eligible for a couple quarters. Damn, I didn't know SanDisk. Like, I looked at their chart a couple weeks ago, and I was like, how is this thing up this much? But it's up 500 freaking % this year. It went public at $36 in February. Peaked at $283 November 12th. Since then, it's been a short, but now it's back to $250. Yeah, they used forever before AppLovin finally got into. Yeah, they got relisted in February. That's correct. It was under 100 in August, wasn't it? Oh shit, you're right, dude. It was $50. Oh my gosh. Just did not look at this one. That's up 8% after hours, and the S&P is up a little bit as well. All right, that's what we got. That's what we got on the day. I don't know if MicroStrategy is getting in. The volatility of Bitcoin probably is going to scare the S&P 500 committee every time this stuff happens. And so, given MSTR got cut in half as Bitcoin got cut, it's always going to be why I think the S&P committee is going to be a bit scared. They're eventually going to let them in, but maybe they don't let them in as quickly just off the fear of what happens when Bitcoin collapses. But eventually they'll probably get in. Where did Grab end on the day? Grab, again, they had that go-to rumor. Grab right there ended at 525, up 7%. Again, the go-to CEO is gone. He is officially replaced, which creates the foundation for Grab to now step in and acquire them. It happened this morning. If it does, I mean, that's why Grab jumped 7%. If it does happen, would be bullish for 2026. If it doesn't, then we're going to see. But it does seem like the reason they raised that $2 billion back in June of this year was to potentially prepare for this type of acquisition. And maybe that's why that stock was up today. Yeah, Micron also, SanDisk, Micron, SK Hynix, a lot of these. Look at that. Micron's pumping after hours just off the SanDisk news up 9. Is Micron in the S&P 500? Is Micron in the... I think it is. Let's see. I'm pretty sure Trump is not live yet. Or I don't think Trump is going live today. Micron is... Let's see. I'm asking Grok. I don't think it is. Then again, I think it is. No, yeah, it is. It is. It is. Okay, Micron's in the SP. Yep, it's in there. All right, so a lot of those memory names again, continuing to make a move right here. Yeah, exactly. SanDisk was public in 2010 to 2015. It merged with Western Digital, relisted in the 30s in February. Western Digital stock also has been crazy ever since the relisting. I mean, even that one had a massive move. Their stock is up 222% year to date. So that's why a lot of people started shorting these names last week. At least that's what I saw. That one's up 3% after the SanDisk announcement as well. Do we have a Rocket Lab headline? Rocket Lab says its first dedicated Electron launch for Japan's JAXA Raise and Shine will lift off from Launch Complex in New Zealand during a window opening December 5th. Okay. Rocket Lab continues to execute. Rocket Lab right there. Wow, up 2% after hours. Dude, you're just seeing a lot of strong headlines across the board on a variety of different names. And a lot of those headlines are conducive with the moves that they made this morning. Robinhood's up after hours. Palantir's up after hours. ASTS up 2%. Cypher's up 3%. D-Wave's up another 1%. Oscar's up 1%. HIMS is up 2% after being up 9% on the day. It's not bad. Exciting stuff. All right, that is it for me. I think Steve will be live tonight with Chris. So Steve will be live on his channel tonight. I think they're going to be going over Meta more deeply. So he'll be live today on his channel with Chris. I will have a daily recap coming out in a couple hours. We'll have a new Substack post out tonight as well. Again, it's a short week. We have today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and then that's it for this week. Will not be live Thursday. Will not be live on Friday. My sister is kind of forcing me to take off to be with family. So it's not my fault. It's her fault. But also I want to spend time with family too. So that's, it's Thanksgiving weekend. So I won't be live on Sunday either. So there's going to be no future show on Sunday this week. Basically after Wednesday, we'll be taking off. But Friday's going to be very low volume anyway. Friday market's going to close at 1 p.m. So I don't think there's going to be that much movement on Friday to care about. Do you speak as much during family dinners? Only if someone asks me a question. I don't talk just for the hell of talking. I mean, no, let me take that back. Okay. I don't because I do that every day, but I don't like when I'm with family, I don't just talk to talk. But if they ask me a question and they want me to explain something or get into it, or better yet, get into a debate, then your boy will start talking. But no, in general, I don't really talk that much. I mean, to be honest, dude, without streaming, I'm kind of silent most of the time. I talk to myself more often than not in my head. But when you guys ask me about, top 5 actors and I give you my list and then you say this Daniel Day-Lewis guy is the best actor of all time, that requires a discussion. So I really did not know who this guy was, dude. I will make sure to get educated on this guy. We had 2 LLMs say that he's better than Leo. I couldn't believe it. I thought they would say Leo's number 1. I thought they would say Leo is number 1. Symbotic's up 18%. Yeah, they had a good earnings, and this is a great day to report. So that's up 19%. Wow, 19%. That one's making a move. Imagine amid road raging. I don't think I road rage. I definitely don't road rage like Steve. I road rage more at my Tesla when I check my phone for a second and it gets mad and threatens to boot me out of the FSD. I road rage more at the car than I do at other people. But not usually that aggressive. Yes, I know. Gangs of New York. I know everyone's saying we have to watch that. Dude, I love Bryan Cranston. I mean, you guys know how big of a Breaking Bad fan I am, but he's not better than Leo DiCaprio as a freaking actor. He doesn't have the set of movies that Leo has. If we're comparing best actor of all time, I love Bryan Cranston. Breaking Bad was amazing, but it's not the type of resume that Leo has. Now, if you're talking about TV show actors, yes, he's up there for me, 100%. But overall, I don't know. I did watch Malcolm in the Okay, so I haven't watched Malcolm in the Middle in a long time, but I used to watch it when it was like on Nickelodeon, Nick at Night, when I was like 10 years old. So I remember the show. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I do remember the show. All right, I think that's it, guys. We'll be back for the daily recap later today. Tomorrow on the market open. Again, we're not doing Tech Bros anymore on Monday nights. We're still trying to find a new time for it. Tanner started going live in the middle of the day, so it's kind of not easy for us to do in the middle of the day. So we're kind of working out when's the best time to do it. So we'll give you guys an update whenever we have that time. But yeah, we'll keep going. Keep doing what we got to do. Siege, thank you for the $20 super chat. I still have to watch this movie. I know you recommended it last week to me and Steve around robots. Oh, wow. Matt Damon's in this movie. Okay. All right. This one's on the list. This one is on the list, and we're going to see what happens as we get into these. Trump is not going live yet. Is he going live today? No, he's not going live. No, there's no Trump live. I mean, he did the White House AI order, but I don't see any live streams for him today. We'll probably get more updates on the executive order, but I don't think it's actually going live. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow morning. We'll keep going from there. Not going to be able to join Steve and Chris tonight, but they are doing a deep dive on Meta. So for those that are super, super excited for that one in terms of it being an opportunity, look, I agree with a lot of Chris's analysis. I think Meta and Amazon are going to be really good buys next year, or right now going into next year. In Google, maybe they pull a Google, but Google has absolutely showed what it means to have conviction on a really important, well-executing company in the face of doubt. And, it's rewarding people very heavily. Google 321 after hours, 321.40, continuing to make its move. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the market open. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.